Guys, so sorry that it ended. I don't know what happened. There's a new live feed on here, so um hopefully you'll know to come on this one because that was crazy. I'm just learning how to use the new Facebook Live feed, so we'll just wait and see if some people come on here because I think the other one's paused. Brother, technology, guys. I'm going to actually see how it's going over there. If you happen to pop on here, let me know that you're here. I do not know what happened. So let's see if anybody comes on. So sorry. So let me know if you get on here. Let me know what happened. You don't need to let me know what happened. My thing froze and it stopped. So sorry. Hey, Marie, good to see you on here. So hopefully, as you're coming on, I just started a live video and it bumped me off and froze it. So hopefully other people are coming over and then that will get deleted. So, Shara, if you're watching this, if you could just delete that one on my page, that old one, and then that way it'll move everyone over to here. But we'll wait a few seconds to get everyone to come on. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Hey, Rachel, good to see you. Guys, this has been such an enjoyable, honestly, the highlight of my week. I mean, truly the highlight of my week. Not only do I get to meet with all of you, but my husband, I walked out and I go, look at me. I mean, I did my hair. I did my makeup. I'm like, I'm different. Thursdays, I am different. I got jeans on today. Guys, here we go. Here we go. I put lipstick on. It's the little things these days. As you're coming on, hey, Vicky, good to see you. Okay, good. You popped over here. I know Vicky was on the other one. I started a live in it and it bumped me off. Hey, a couple of you, as you're hopping on, if you would be so kind as to share this video right now, because when you share this video right now, they actually can have the opportunity to hop on here live. And I have had some amazing encounters with some of your people that have either never heard about Jesus or haven't heard it the way that we kind of explain it and say it and hold space for people. And it has just been, I've gotten to hear a lot of really amazing stories. So when you're sharing this, I get to see the numbers of how many people are watching this videos. And guys, it's been thousands of people that are watching this. So as I always say, my Mighty 11, you guys are awesome. You guys, we're, 12 people change the world. We're the Mighty 11. We're doing it. Here we go. So if you would share this video, it'd be awesome. And I think it would be great for the people that you love and care for, and that you might not even know that follow you from high school or whatever, and you're offering them some hope. So share that. Secondly is, if you're on here, whether live or not live, you can post a question while I'm talking and I will do my best to come back and answer those questions. Sometimes with the new way the Facebook is lined up, if the questions start too early, it won't let me scroll all the way back. It's super dumb. So be thinking of your question and write it right around in 20 minutes, and then I'll be able to get it sooner. And the last thing is, some of you have asked, how do you know all this stuff? What have you been doing? Who are you? So I thought I would just, before we dive into community and disruption, which I have, what I believe is really going to help free you from understanding what community and disruption even means. How is that even possible, especially with what we're doing right now? But disruption happens all the time, right? It's not just what we're living in right now. We have lived in disruption. Oh, there's a phone ringing. So life is still happening here. So I wanted to answer the question of kind of who am I and what am I doing? I run an organization called Freedom Movement, and it is a nonprofit. Super sorry for that phone ring, but it's all right, right? It's just life. I run a nonprofit and we do three things. We run an evangelistic tour, and our goal is to partner with churches and bring evangelistic events to their churches and make evangelism not weird. I can see some of the pastors are on here. Pastor Marie is on here, and we got to go to Compass Church in Arizona. Whoop, whoop. We've gotten to go to quite a few churches and partner and bring the good news in a way that is actually good, and partner with really like-hearted churches. So that's one of the things we do. The second thing that we do is we offer training for anyone that considers themselves a leader, which, side note, you are a leader. And we're going to actually talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about your kingdom and what God has given you and how do you engage in that. And then thirdly, we offer coaching and counseling, either one-on-one or group work that you can do with us. So that's all with Freedom Movement. I personally am a licensed life coach. I am a licensed pastor. And I also just spent about 25 years studying the brain and studying the Bible and how to integrate those two things in a beautiful way and understand how our bodies and our brains work and what the Bible says about all that. And it's been a fascinating journey. And so I have studied under Dan Allender at the Allender Center to study narrative trauma care. And I'm moving on in the fall to my second level of training with them. So that's a little bit about me, because I feel like a lot of you have been sharing, and I'm so thankful that you've been sharing, but people are like, who are you? What are you doing? And so it's been really, really good to be able to do that. Are you guys hearing okay? I see some of you guys are saying that it's freezing and all of this. I hope we're okay. Good to see you on here, Victoria. Good to see you on here, Michelle. I'm so happy to have all of you on here. Again, share away and ask any questions. We're going to dive right in. All right. So the last 2 weeks, we have been in a 4-week series on disruption. The first week was how to engage our mind, body, and spirit, which is really kind of trickling through all the weeks. But basically, it was how to connect with ourselves. The second week was hope in disruption, which really was how to connect with the Lord in disruption and what happens in disruption. If you need to go back and watch those, you can go on to my YouTube channel, and we have actually put them all on there. So you can go on there. You can share onto your Facebook from YouTube, I think. And you can go and watch those. And this week is really how to connect with others. So it's community in disruption. And I believe that 3 things in order to start living fully alive is to connect to yourself, to God, and to others. That this is the fullness of really beginning to live fully alive in the context of our relationship with Christ and the world. And so I want to dive into this idea of community and disruption. So I kind of have been thinking, I've been talking with a lot of people and sharing a lot of kind of my ideas about this. And to be honest with you, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I think I put it on Facebook too, but I will pop on and do these stories, because I don't know about you, but there are days where I'm like, hey, we're doing it. This is okay. We're going to be all right. Like hanging out with my family, silver lining, like we're getting a system and a routine. And then boom, out of nowhere, I'll plummet and I'll just be taken back. I'll be sad. I'll be angry. And really kind of what we explained is, our bodies are just in a traumatic state. This is unprecedented. We don't know how to engage the world and ourselves. And so how do we even begin to move into community? I think the number one thing that I have been sensing, and not even just sensing, hearing from so many of my tribe, the Mighty 11, and many of your friends, is that I'm so alone. Even though I'm in a house with people, I'm missing people. And so really I wanted to break that down tonight. Like, what is that? And I want to talk about, in community and disruption, the difference between conversation and connection. I I had a call with a friend last night, and I was sitting watching TV, and she texted me and she said, "Hey, something's bothering me. Can we just hop on a phone call?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can do that." And so she proceeded to, I mean, we ended up talking for about an hour on the phone, and she proceeded. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. Yesterday was a tough day. It was a tough day. It's hard. I run a nonprofit, and not everyone's wanting to give to a nonprofit right now. And the reality of where my nonprofit is it's rough. And so yesterday was some of the realities of our finances, and our reach was tough. It was a tough day. And so I just kind of wanted to numb out and watch TV. I had cried a lot of tears, and did all my steps like I talked about in the first live, but it was difficult, hard. And so when she texted me, my instinct was kind of, and this is like one of my dearest friends, I was like, I don't really want to. But often when I'm helping others, it does tend to help me a little bit, kind of get my mind off of things. And so got on the phone with her, and she proceeded to give me the scenario that she's sitting in. And I was able to do a little bit of coaching with her. And by coaching, she's a dear friend. So, I mean, it's a friend conversation. But gosh, after an hour, I got off the phone, and I just felt so much lighter. I just felt like, man, and mostly it was about her. It was about her situation and her story. But in that, I was able to share some of the things that are going on with me. And I began to think, and she kind of said, like, we're having a lot of conversations, but we're not having a lot of connection. And it just clicked. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about tomorrow night. We've been reading in scripture in the Holy Week this week about Jesus's last week before he goes and dies. And for many of you, the scenario comes out and it's like, if you had 1 week left to live, what would you do? And so what a fascinating way to approach seeing someone who knows the end of his life. He knows the day he's going to die. He knows actually how it's going to happen, and he's getting prepared. And what are some of the things that he begins to do? He begins to call out the religious right, like just kind of schooling them on things. And he begins to teach, and he's in the synagogue and teaching. And then he pulls away for a while and goes and spends times with his dear closest friends, and begins to pursue connection with them. And something that stood out on Tuesday, it was the kind of the Jesus creed that one of the Sadducees, here's Jesus in the temple, and I have a point, so hang on. But Jesus is in the temple, and he's doing all of this kind of preaching and teaching and offering like kind of his last bits of words. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to leave you with before I go? And he's pouring out some wisdom. And the Sadducees and the Pharisees that are just jerk religious people that think they're better than everyone else, want to catch him. And they're asking him all these questions, and he's just landing them left and right and keeping them just stumped. And finally, a Sadducee says, what is the greatest commandment? Many of you know this if you've studied the Bible at all. And he says to love the Lord. He actually references an Old Testament Deuteronomy chapter 6, and references love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And then references Leviticus and says, and love your neighbor as yourself. And man, that just struck me because, one, I don't actually have my own home right now. I am living in my in-laws because we moved out of our house the day before quarantine in shelter was in place. So we are in my in-laws house. And we are isolated because of the pandemic. So who is my neighbor? How do I begin to love my neighbor as myself? And why on a phone call with my friend last night after an hour did I feel so seen and so freed, and yet had been on Zoom calls all day long. And some of them were meaningful Zoom calls, but that's where I want to dive in. The difference between conversation and connection. You see, we aren't longing as much. We need human connection. Yes, we need touch and physical touch. We know that. We know the science is there for that. We know that even babies in Russia would die without touch. So we know that physical touch is important. But what we really understand from the brain is that we are wired to not be alone. And we know that through science, but we also know that from the beginning of time, right? It's the only time that God says it's not good for man to be alone. So we know that that's how we're wired, and yet we're being asked to isolate. And this is what everyone's talking about. And so when I'm looking through the scripture and I go, well, then why are we struggling? What's the real struggle? Is the struggle really community? So many of us have been in community for years and yet still have the ache of not being seen. The only thing that's happening right now for all of us is that our distraction, our ability to be able to go, I'm busy with people, so therefore I'm connecting, that's all gone. And so now we're with the reality and the understanding, like, I don't actually have a community. And really, I don't know if I've ever been actually connecting. And so I want to talk about, in the process of that, how do we begin in disruption to begin to move towards a place of community? And what does community mean by definition? See, I don't think that community means a lot of people. I don't think that community means that, I think it's important to hop on your church's website, your church's lives and go to church on Sunday. There's something beautiful and holy about that. And I think this right here is so good because we have a sense of community, like we're in this together. But unfortunately, like you and I can't connect the way I would love us to be able to connect. And if you wait till the end, I have something to offer you that I am just so excited about. It's something that we get to actually connect in a way, the best way we can. So community really isn't defined by the number of people. What we're really longing for is not the number of people, but a person that sees us. A person that holds us. When it says in the Bible, it's not good for man to be alone, the scripture of that means I'm going to provide a suitable helper, which means I'm going to give you someone that's like you and different than you. And also, I'm going to give you somebody that will battle with you, stand with you, walk through life with you. And so the longing that you're sensing in this disruption could seem like I need to be around people. And there are, scientific evidences that we need touch and physical touch and looking at someone's face. But really what we're needing is I need someone to see me and be able to hold the space that I'm in because I'm not maybe doing okay. So how do we begin to do that? How do we begin to get to a place of connection? One, you need to allow a safe space to be held. So how are you doing reaching out? It's one thing to get lost. There's a lot of things for you to jump on. That's why I feel so honored that so many of you are even here. It blows my mind. You have so many opportunities of things to go to, and yet you choose on Thursday night, maybe it's your first time here, or maybe you've been here through the whole series, but to come on here because there is a sense of connection. There is a sense of community. But how are you doing actually seeking out a safe place to be held, to actually let someone into, hey, I'm not doing okay? Are you curious about your own story? Now, let me ask this. In connecting with yourself, or connecting and finding connection and finding yourself being seen, are you curious about why I'm feeling this way? We talked about this in the first week of asking yourself those questions that says, what am I feeling and what am I needing? So often we're not curious about what we're holding. We use our heads, which can be good, but we disconnect our head from our body and we just plow through. We just get through the day, and we're longing for community. We're really longing for connection. So are you curious about your story? Are you curious about your emotions? Are you curious about what you're needing? If you're not, then there is a disconnect, and in that disconnect, it will push community and the longing that you have for belonging away. Thirdly, vulnerability. So not only do we have to seek out holding space, so I would actually put it in this way. Let me rework this. Number one would be, are you curious? Are you curious, not with condemnation, not with abuse and accusation towards yourself, which is where the enemy thrives, but are you curious about why you're feeling anxious, depressed, shamed, isolated? Are you curious about why you want to pull away and how you have used that your whole life to be able to protect yourself? Are you curious about the amount of anger that's coming up and the rage that's, you just have no patience and you have no tolerance and you find yourself going crazy on social media and yelling at your kids? Give kindness to that person, because she or he is working in his survival trauma spaces. So be curious, go beyond the judgment of yourself. I'm so terrible, into why do I act this way? What am I needing right now? And so that would be the first, to be curious. And then second would be to engage vulnerability. To engage vulnerability means that I am going to have to step out of my comfort zone and actually seek out connection. Not different than getting on a Zoom, or maybe not even a Zoom, but getting on like a social media feed, or even getting on, the lives that our churches are doing, or it's different than that. Vulnerability is going to say, I am going to say what I need, and I'm actually going to offer that need to somebody that can then hold me in a safe way. That's what happened for me when I was on the phone with my friend. I didn't even want to acknowledge that I needed it. But boy, did I. Boy, did I need to feel seen. Did I need to feel heard? A text doesn't work, friends. A text does not work. You need human words. You need to let them hear the influx of your voice. I've been texting with that friend of mine tons. We actually haven't gotten on the phone since this whole thing went on, which is so terrible. And I think my friend's on here. But because I get busy doing what I need to do and hustle and bustle, and then I betray my body. So in saying all of that, and some of you, I know you're going like, well, I don't have anybody that I can do that with. And that's when I would say this would be the time to reach out to coaches or counselors. That would be the time, with some of the things that I'm going to offer to you in a few moments. That would be the time to get the exchange book and offer, hey, do you want to get a friend? Do you want to do this with me? We can do it over Zoom. Carrie does the videos. It's very easy. I make it very simple for you. And I'm giving you 25% off. Shameless plug. Stay home is the code. But you can get that and get it with a friend and go, I don't even know how to start. I don't even know what to say. But let me tell you, your brain is wired for connection. It's not wired for a lot of people. It's wired for connection. And those are two strongly different things. Conversation is different than connection. Can we hear that? Conversation is different than connection. Now, can we have conversation that moves to connection? Absolutely. As long as we're being curious and kind to our stories, we're allowing vulnerability to come in, and honestly, we're being honest, which is vulnerability, in a safe space. Don't do this with 400 people. Don't do this with 400 people. You're not going to get it with 400 people. You're going to get it with maybe 1, 2, honestly, like max 4 or 5. To be able to really allow yourself to be connected. So my question is, have you engaged in connection? Have you picked up the phone? Have you gotten face-to-face on a Zoom with someone? And I know it's not the best. I know it's not ideal. I know it's not perfect. We're all just trying to figure it out. But what is the next best thing? The next best thing is picking up the phone. And let me tell you, please don't just resort to texting. The difference between my friend's conversation with me and her was the fact that I heard her voice and she heard mine. She got to hear me feel sad. She got to say to my ear, that went straight to my heart, wow, that is a lot that you're carrying. And just her saying that made me feel like it is. And something in that, it's what the Holy Spirit does, is when he connects our heart and you hold space for someone and you allow yourself to be held, something begins to heal. Hope begins to rise in the midst of adversity. There's a story. I used to live in Germany, And I lived right outside of Hamburg. And so I could actually drive to a place called Dachau. And it was a concentration camp. I did probably 6 or 7 tours through Dachau. I took friends that visited us through Dachau. It was like, if you were coming to see me, you were going to Dachau. It was just, even now, as I'm saying it, I can feel my body just viscerally begin to have a response, because it's one of the most moving things I've ever seen and ever been a part of. And it's eerie and, dare I say, beautiful, all in one moment because of the human spirit. I heard stories, as the tour guides would tell us, that at night, the women that would be able to be on the top of the bunks, and if you were on the bottom of the bunk, you were inevitably going to die. But the mamas and the dads and the rabbis and the leaders, the strong ones that were on the top, they would tell stories at night. They would sing songs. They would talk about good days. They would allow hope to rise. There was very little, I mean, the community was there, but it was in such peril, destitute moments. And so many of the stories of what people said that made them be able to rise up in the midst of such adversity was the stories, the voice of someone speaking hope, the voice of someone holding the same pain with them and yet offering hope simultaneously. This is what humans need. This is what humans desire. You aren't missing people. You're missing connection. And so it's not the number of people that you're missing. It's being seen. And here, can I say this even more? And we'll move into questions here in just a minute. And I have one more thing, but do I dare say that you've always been longing for connection? You've just been busy and inundated with people that have taken a false counterfeit to connection. So, 3 steps: curiosity about your own story and what you're needing, kindness around that curiosity and not judgment, vulnerability to say, I need, can you get on the phone with me? And thirdly, to allow yourself to be held in a safe place with a safe person or two. You can do that in various ways. And the last thing I want to say is, how do we actually offer this? When I was reading, like I said, in Holy Week, that said to love your neighbor as yourself. Man, I sat in that verse for so long. I've heard it a ton. But I sat in that verse and the Lord just brought it to me, Carrie. 1, who's your neighbor? 2, wow, what a journey it has been to discover how to actually love me. Because if I'm going to love my neighbor as myself, then I surely should have done some work on what it means to love me. And I think we're very busy loving everyone else and not loving ourselves. And I think that keeps people away from actually seeing us, because we're wounded and we're hurt. And so we become codependent. I'm going to help everybody else and keep everybody at a distance. And actually, we're helping out of wounded spaces and not out of healed spaces. So in that, I began to thank God for the work that I have done and the work that I'm continuing to do on what it means to courageously love who God has created me to be. What a journey that has been. And it has allowed me to love with deeper empathy, because my story is full of brokenness and pain, and God has been redeeming it currently. And it has allowed me to love my neighbor. And the second question I began to ask myself, who's my neighbor? Guess what? You're my neighbor. You're my neighbor right now. My mighty 11 is my neighbor. This is who God has given me a kingdom over. And did you know that you have a kingdom? Did you know that you have a kingdom? Each one of us as Christ followers. And we know this because Jesus said it. He said, I came to bring the kingdom of heaven here through me, and I will leave and give this kingdom. So you have a kingdom. Who's your kingdom? That same call with that friend that I shared with, that I just shared with you about, she goes, I'm actually having some tough days, but to be honest with you, I am loving this. And I go, why are you loving this? And she goes, because I am able to just send someone a coffee from across the state. I'm able to get up and go, God, who do you want me to today? Who's in my kingdom? And she begins to share how she is ministering and loving to her kingdom. And is she supposed to be in all the other? I go, well, what makes a difference? What does this time different than the other time? She goes, there's no pressure. There was no pressure now to have, oh, I should have that kingdom, or I should have that kingdom, or I need to do that. It's going to be better if I do that. No, it was so much easier for her just to go, I actually see who my kingdom is. And in that, I can pour out from my heart. This is what I call to you, friends. How do you love your neighbor as yourself? How do you love your neighbor in a pandemic? What's your gifts? This is my gift. This is how I'm loving my neighbor. I'm kind of good at this. This is what I do, Ask me if I'm going to be really good at writing a letter. No, I'm terrible at writing letters. I'm terrible at sending birthday cards and remembering. Do you know the woman that works for me? It was someone on our staff's birthday, and I'm like, cool. She goes, well, we're going to do this. We're going to hop on 10 minutes before, and we're all going to dress up, and we're going to all of our staff and volunteer staff. And when she comes on, because we had a meeting with her, we're going to just surprise her. We're going to do a surprise Zoom birthday party for her. Awesome. I would never have thought of that. Now, she could minimize that gift and go, well, it's not like yours, Carrie. I'm not putting together a message. Pfft, stupid. That's the dumbest thing. Because this is actually her gift. And don't you think that blessed staff members? You better believe it did. It blessed her socks off. And she didn't need me to give her a message. It wasn't my job to do that. It was Juliana's job. It was her gift. It was how she was loving her neighbor in her kingdom. I'm actually a part of Juliana's kingdom, and Juliana is a part of mine. So my question to you is, not so much, how will you have community in disruption? My question is, how will you have connection in disruption? Will you allow yourself to be curious around your own story and kind to understanding you are in trauma? And then you are responding in very childlike ways right now. Will you allow yourself to be vulnerable and reach out? Will you understand that Jesus says, will you love others like I have loved you? Will you love others like I have loved you? And I just don't think that means that we need to be toting around telling everybody what they're doing wrong or how to fix themselves. I think it's empathetically creating a space that says, I want to hear you. And I don't know how to fix it. Nobody does. Nobody knows how to lead, and nobody knows how to fix it, and nobody knows what's going to happen. So how can I love you today? How can I connect with you today? How can I make you know that you're part of my kingdom? And I'm so, so thankful that you're a part of it. And I'm going to do what I can through the gifts that I have to love you. So who's in your kingdom? Who can you connect with? Who can you allow yourself to be connected to? So that's what I have for you. And I would love to hear from you. What are some questions that you guys have that I could answer? Let's go. I'm going to scroll all the time. You guys are awesome on here. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, good. Sorry, this is Victoria. Oh man, Satan has it out for this conversation. Yes, because honestly, my whole live went blank and then it popped off and whatever. As you guys are writing some questions on here, I just want to let you know that if you do want to start a group, if this is something that you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the plug. I'm going to get one friend. Honestly, if you get 5, you get an even bigger discount. But I'm going to get one friend and we're going to Zoom and I'm going to take I'm going to get the exchange. It's got videos. The code is stay home, all one word. You get 25% off right now. It also helps the nonprofit. It all goes back to the nonprofit, which is so kind of you. And I'm going to do this with a friend. That is a way to begin to step into connection. How do you want to affect kingdom? I had a girl reach out today and she said, hey, I want to bring you and your family Chick-fil-A. And I was like, first of all, you know that's my rich friend because that's a rich friend fast food. I was like, are you sure? And she was like, absolutely. I'm going to drop it off on your doorstep. I just want to bless you today. That was so kind. That was so kind. It meant so much to me. I said, I say hi to you. And she sat way in her car and I was like, hi. And then I started crying because it was so kind. I was her neighbor. That's how she loved me. And I'm going to share one more thing with you in just a second, but let me answer some questions. You don't want to miss this. If you want to be a part of this, it's going to be real. Let's see. Feeling disconnected from family and friends tonight. Yep. So many of us. The difference between just community and disconnection, that longing to be connection. And Deborah, not that I can fix this by any means, but what I would say is you do need someone. And it's not ideal, but hop on the phone. Not just hop on the phone and have conversation, but can you hop on the phone and allow yourself to be vulnerable? And ask the Holy Spirit, would you use this and supernaturally use this in a way to fill my heart? You ordered the exchange, you're waiting for coming. Let's see. Helping from wounded spaces. You mentioned a week or two about going away to write. Without being specific, where do you go? It's time to write my story, but within these four walls, it's not the place to do it. Well, Vicki, for me, I actually already, I have a friend. See, this is a way that she could love her neighbor. I have a friend who has a cabin. Isn't that kind? That's so kind. And I can't possibly write a book with all my kids here. And I actually leave on Monday. So I will be doing a live, our last installment next week from that cabin. So I'm going to go away to do that. That's how I do it. And we can do a whole live about how to write because I think everyone's different. I can tell you how I do it a lot in like chunks of time. I can get a lot done if I have it quiet in a small amount of time, but I have been organizing what I'm going to write and how I'm going to do it. And you guys have actually helped me a little bit in this process, some of the stuff we were going to talk about. I'm going to go away. Quarantine has triggered my need for connection in ways I do not like, but also can't ignore. Rebecca, you know that I would want to press into that, but I will keep moving on with your question. Do you think that a coach counselor can fill the same needs as having a close friend? It is really hard as a wounded introvert to engage people just for the sake of friendship. So therapy is easy for me, but in the long run, there still seems to be a hole that counseling cannot fill. Thoughts for wounded introverts. First of all, can we all just in our bodies feel that? Thoughts for wounded introverts. When the world praises extroverts, but I believe that healing happens through the kindness of introverts often. Yes, I will say this. A counselor is wonderful and absolutely a great place to begin and start. But there is something about having a friend. There is something about doing that, and it's risky. And all 3 weeks, I have been asking you to risk. I've been asking you to move into the depths of your story. I've been asking you to examine your own trauma. I've been asking you to risk. I've been asking you to risk. And so, yes, there is a risk. And yet, you were wired for it. So to not risk is to actually keep away the very nature you were made in. The very fabric of how your brain was wired. So yes, it's risky. Is there someone that you can risk with? Maybe we just put our toe in the water. And maybe for you, since there is a wounding there, it's okay. And can everyone hear this? I feel like this is going to be a word. For everyone on here, you don't jump from, I do a whole conference on the circles of friendship. You don't jump from the outer level of friendship of like, hey, we're getting to know each other right into the center. And often we do that. That doesn't mean that you're jaded. That means that you're careful. So maybe start an exchange group. See if there's someone that feels like-minded with you. And then say, go, hey, that was really, I'm really enjoying this girl. I was in a group, a therapy group up in Allender, and I walked in, man, my guard is up. Let me tell you, I am like, I don't do well in those situations. And it was so good for me. But I loved all of them. But there was definitely one in there that I just began to feel a little bit more of a connection. So I took a risk. and I asked her to go to lunch with me. It's those kind of things that we begin to move towards connection. So is it okay that you don't have anybody and you might just make that first step of going, hey, I've got this book, or hey, I'm going to start something with a few women and start it. It's like I tell my son who's 14, you don't got to jump right into the date. Why don't you do a group date first? See what you think about her. That's a great way to start. I'm so used to plowing through the craziness of the day-to-day. Now I'm stuck in a 970 square foot apartment with a special needs child and a husband. Grateful that I have a place too, but I feel like I'm trapped butterfly. Loving others sometimes is easier than loving all of myself. Yes. But remember, you cannot give out that which you will not give to yourself. You will be limited. And you will begin to resent when you love others so much better. And when we come from a special needs aspect of taking care of someone with special needs, there is a demand on your body, on your time, of your mind, of your heart, of all of your senses. And so it is going to be hard to contend for yourself, Sheila. It's going to be hard to contend for yourself. But no one's getting your best if you're choosing to love your neighbor, but not choosing to love yourself. Because if God says, love your neighbor as yourself, then how well are you loving yourself will show you the extent of how much you're willing to love your neighbor, or even able to. So I say all of that, go back, revisit the first week that we were together. How are you tending to your grief? How are you tending to your body? How are you tending to your spirit? And how are you tending to that in kindness? Be curious around that. I felt numb. I reached out to a friend and shared my triggered by all this isolation. Yes, and more yes. But I'm so proud of you, Heather, reaching out. So proud of you. I don't even know how to Zoom. Oh, we can help you, Brittany. It's so easy. It's literally an app and we can help you do it. And there's all kinds of ways. So if you need help with a Zoom, we would love to help you. How can I separate being an empath to prioritize myself when I reach out to others during this pandemic? How can I separate being an empath to prioritize myself when I reach out to others during this? Well, here's the thing is that you have to take care of you first. It's the whole illustration of the plane, right? When the oxygen comes down, you've got to put your mask on first. You've got to make, it is not selfish. And I don't know, there's a real weird narrative in kind of church society that it's like, you know, sacrifice yourself, which I get the context of what they're saying. It's actually taken out of context, but like, you know, you don't light yourself on fire to keep everyone warm. That's nonsense. That's never going to work. And so, you know, I think it's really asking yourself first and foremost, how am I feeling and what am I needing? And then you're able to invite God into that. And again, go back to the first week and begin to engage those parts of your story so that you can then, you know, help others. Also, by the way, side note, helping others can simultaneously help you as long as you're not using helping others as a stuffing mechanism or numbing mechanism to dealing with your own hurt. Before we go on to the next question, I'm going to offer something very exciting. And if you're still with me, which I have no idea who's even here or who's not, because I don't know how to read this thing anymore, because, you know, technology is hard for me. But if you're on and you're still on here, which I see some more people on here, I am offering something that I'm very excited about. And if you're interested, we would love for you to sign up. I am actually going to be doing a private 4-week coaching called Freedom in Disruption. So I am taking basically what we've learned here, and we are going to dive in a lot deeper. It's going to be through a Zoom kind of platform. We will be, I will be doing some live coaching with your story if you choose to want to do that. We're going to do some live coaching. We are going to have live question and answer, and we're going to have some live and a ton of practical tools on how to engage. So even before we start, you're going to get something in an email that what you need to come with. We are starting it the very last Thursday of April, and you can sign up. It's actually going to be pinned up at the top. You can of this page and these comments, but you can sign up for that on the link that's provided. I'll also put the link back in the description. But we are charging for it because I got to pay for the platform, but it's $10 for 4 weeks. So, whoa, I know, but we needed something also to hold your spot because seats are limited. So, taking quite a few. It's not like limited to like 5 or anything. It's going to be limited, but I think, it is limited. So that's $10 and it's freedom and disruption, but we actually get to see each other's faces and I get to hear your voice and hopefully we'll get to dive into some of your, that is something you're interested in. You have to start signing up tonight. Also follow us on Freedom Movement and follow me on all social platforms. And the links will be all in there and in my link tree and the link in my bio and all the other things. But I wanted to let you guys know first before we put it out there that I'm going to be doing this and I'm so excited. I just was like, I need to see you more. Like I need to hear you and see you. And so we've been working on this. So 4 weeks, $10, freedom and disruption. We're going to do a deeper dive. We're going to go through what it means to have ritual and to be able to allow, I know that's a scary word for Christians, but it just means how we have some systems to create safety. And so I'm so excited. Let's see. I'm connecting a couple days a week through Zoom, but I'm realizing I'm really needing my space. I'm feeling very overwhelmed and suffocated. My therapist is suggesting I have compassion fatigue from caring for my son who had a long hospital stay, being a single mom for 6 months while husband away, and now the impact of social isolating. Yes, compassion fatigue is another way. Yes, it's another way of saying you're actually not allowing yourself to feel and to engage your body. And this is something we're going to go over in the Freedom from Disruption, the webinar that I'm going to be doing. The webinar, because ritual really helps with that. And you guys all do rituals, just so you know. You all do rituals. You go to Starbucks in the morning at the same time every day, and then you read your Bible or you read this book, or, if you, I get up in the morning and I take a shower. Everyone has rituals, but rituals actually create a sense of safety and comfort. So how can we actually engage our body in ritual and allow the Holy Spirit to move in ritual? Can allow us to have some structure around being able to engage our bodies so that we know that we are caring for our spirit and our soul and we're engaging with God before we're giving out. So that's going to be really helpful for you. But yes, Yvette, that is difficult. Mallory here. Hey, Mallory, good to see you on here. It's kind of see you, hear you. I had a great day yesterday, and suddenly in the evening, I plummeted down to a spiraling hole of anxiety. Yes, I feel this. I felt like I needed a visceral physical release to get it out. I needed to yell or scream or ugly cry or break something even, but felt very aware that there was nowhere to go, to be alone enough to do that. I don't normally have these needs to physically release anger or emotion, or maybe I just don't recognize them. Is it possible the stillness and numbness of the times right now had this up? Absolutely. I follow someone that she calls herself a ritual maker. She's a Christian. She loves Jesus. And she did this whole thing. And I mean, she's on the extreme. She's awesome. But she did this thing in her backyard where she belly yelled and talked about what happens to your brain when you do that. There's some kind of we've got to have a release somewhere. We have to have a release. It's, remember, our bodies are wired for pleasure. They're wired for release. They're wired this way. And so don't think that anger is not a skyrocketing emotion that gets you to wake up and be alive. It's why we fight or flight. We run or we fight. I mean, it's part of that response. And so if your body is doing that and maybe you're a little more mild mannered and you're kind of this is freaking me out. I got to feel this. Listen to your body, and go in your car, take a drive, just go to the street and just let it out, cry out, let it out of your body. Because your body is holding so much. And I know what you do, Mallory. And because I know you've taken my Freedom Academy go. And you hold a lot for people. And your steadiness is actually your strength, but your steadiness keeps you from allowing yourself to have too big of of an emotion. And so I know that can feel scary, but your body's letting you know, good for you for acknowledging and naming what your body is needing. And that Jesus didn't have outbursts, because read Holy Week. He sure did. Let's see. I think that last comment spoke to me about dealing with my own hurt. Therapy appointment on 4/17. I hear you, Carrie. Way to go, Sheila. Way to go. Is there a deadline to sign up for Freedom and Disruption? No, there's not a deadline, but if it fills up, it fills up. So I think we're taking 50. I don't know. Maybe there's 100. I don't know. But I know it's not more than 100. But I think we're taking 50. I don't know. See, this is why I have an organization that does stuff for me. But it's $10, Freedom and Disruption, to go deeper, to be able to do some engagement in our stories. I encourage you to get some friends, to have them come on this. It's going to be really, I think it's really, really, really helpful. Any other questions before we go? Remember, I'm going to give you the last three steps. That if you are not longing for people, you're longing for connection. So how can we get connection right now? Please do not think that texting is going to do it. It is not. It is not going. Now, it's not that a kind word is not good. Send those kind words, but send those kind words with a, hey, would love to hop on the phone with you. Can you do this with everybody? Please hear this. No. So a text is good for someone that's not in your inner circle. A message, a DM of encouragement is good. It's good. But what you are going to need is curiosity around your story, what you're needing, what am I feeling, vulnerability to engage with someone and reach out, and a safe place to be held. That cannot happen over text. That cannot happen over text. That can happen on a phone call, on a Zoom call. Obviously, ideally, it happens face to face, but there's just nothing like seeing someone look in your eyes and just say, man, I hear this. This is hard. And if you are in ministry, if you are in leadership in any kind of way, which means that's all of you, please don't try to fix the people that are hurting right now. Please don't silver line it. Please don't start your sentence with at least. Please don't do that. Say, this is really hard. I feel so honored you chose to share this with me. I don't know how to fix it, but man, I just feel so honored you'd be willing to hold this with me. And it's hard. It's hard. Something happens supernaturally. That is loving. That is loving your neighbor as you love yourself. To have someone hold space. This is how we have community in disruption. This is the definition. This is what the world is longing for. This is how you love your neighbor as yourself. So who's your neighbor? What's the kingdom God has given you? Don't say you don't have a kingdom. You sure do. You have a kingdom. Who are they? Who's your kingdom? How are you going to love them? How are you going to connect with them? And how are you going to let yourself be seen? This is the question. Last thing, if you feel inclined to donate to Freedom Movement, gosh, we would love it. And we want to keep these things going. We want to keep our organization running. And I mean, $10, $20, it all helps. You can go on wearefreedommovement.org and you can donate any amount of money. I'm coming to you. Need it. It's a tough time. And we want to keep this kind of stuff going. We want to keep the message of hope and training people on how to hold space for people, how to do good and not harm, how to hold space and not fix, how to let the Holy Spirit illuminate someone's life and be seen and held. I'm telling you, you will never see something more miraculous than when you hold space for someone. And the last two things, join our webinar. It's 4 weeks. It will be closed. It's not going to be like you can just come and go. We're asking that you'd be there the whole time if you can. I know a lot of us are like, we don't even know what's going on, but pretty sure we're going to be in our houses. It's $10. Starts the last week of April. We're going to do some live coaching, live question and answer, face to face. I get to see your face. I love that. Seats are limited, but we have some room. So feel free to hop on there. And then also the exchange. If you want to do that with a friend, it's 25% off right now. Stay home is the code. Not you stay home, although yes, you stay home, but that's the code. I just love you. I just love you. I am so thankful for these Thursday nights. I am so thankful for them. They mean so much to me. So thank you for letting me hear your questions, hear what you are thinking and feeling, you for letting me share my heart with you, and to know that we are in this together. So if you've never been a part of the Mighty 11 tribe, you are now, and we love you. We hope I want to see you next week. Next week is joy in disruption, how to have joy in disruption. And again, I have a different take, I think, on joy than maybe just happy thoughts. If you'd be so kind to as to share this, it would mean not only me, but I believe the people that are out there that are just needing to know that it's okay that they're hurting, and it's okay that they feel lost. We all do. Nobody knows what to do except for the Lord. And he wants to minister in the midst of your grief, your shame, and your pain, and the trauma of this pandemic. So your neighbor as yourself. Where's your kingdom? Who's your neighbor? Thanks so much for being my neighbor. I surely appreciate you guys. I'll see you next week, 7 o'clock. Sign up for the webinar. Love you guys.